Joining us now is Matt Bruning, the press secretary for the Ohio Department of Transportation. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we are talking about this week is Work Zone Awareness Week. This is a national campaign, you said. But why is it important that we, highlight this here in Central Ohio?
Yeah, well, we've seen a lot of work zone crashes across the state over the last several years. The good news is they've been going down until 2024. And then 2025, we saw an uptick. So we went from 4,000 work zone crashes back in 2024 to just over 4,400 last year. So we want to reverse that trend. We want to keep those numbers going down. The good news is distracted driving in work zones has gone down, and that has been a trend we've seen since 2021. But it's very important that people pay attention in these work zones, obey the speed limits, watch for the workers that are out there, so that everybody gets home safe at the end of the day.
And man, if you've driven on Ohio roads this spring already, there's a lot of construction happening right now, Matt.
Investment is what we call it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sure.
Making it better.
And unfortunately, I mean, really in the past couple of years, we have seen quite a few of the transportation workers hit out there on the roads, whether it be wintertime or during spring and summer construction season.
Yeah, I mean, we're approaching 50 crew hits already this year.
That's a
in the
lot.
state of Ohio. Now, that's people, equipment, that's vehicles, that's everything. But that is not a good number to be at. So we have some work to do to remind people to pay attention out there. And when you see those work crews move over, if you can't safely move over, you need to slow down. That's what the law asks for you to do in all 50 states.
What do you remind the workers that are out there? I mean, I feel like when they're out on the roads like this, they are risking their lives every day for the sake of, making transportation and driving easier for us in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, they are. And, it's the whole head on a swivel thing that they say to each other. And it's true. You have to constantly be watching to make sure that, you know what those surroundings are like. And unfortunately, we've already had not an ODOT employee, but a contractor that was killed in downtown Columbus, not far from where we're sitting, at the end of February. And they're still, to my knowledge, looking for the person responsible for that. So, this is something that weighs on everybody's minds as they go out there and try to make these roads better for all of us.
And obviously, there you work pretty closely with State Highway Patrol in terms of enforcing this law. And what are some of those conversations? Obviously, you see them leading, sitting there a lot of times leading into these construction zones, basically be like, don't speed, and also move over. What are some of these conversations? How do we work with Highway Patrol to make sure that people are doing the right thing?
So work zones are really hard for law enforcement to work in because things are tight already, right? So the thing that I would remind Ohioans is the Ohio State Highway Patrol has a really great aviation unit, and they watch a lot of these zones from the air. There are lines that we paint in the zones. They have other tools that they're able to measure the speed of vehicles as they're going through. So you're probably not going to see that law enforcement officer until it's already been established that you're speeding in these work zones, and they pull you over at the end of the work zone. So we've worked with the Highway Patrol to develop some of these target enforcement areas. I think they had more than 7,000 speed violations that they wrote last year across the state of Ohio in work zones, and more than 30% were for over 20 miles per hour above the speed limit.
Wow.
So it's not just people barely speeding, it's people excessively speeding in these work zones. It's got to stop.
Yeah, and when I was working in Iowa, I went up in one of these. It was with the Iowa State Patrol there and their enforcement, and it's interesting how they do it because they use the markings that are painted specially for them, and they have a stopwatch, and it's all about how the distance between that and how fast you cross them, and that's how they can determine if you're speeding. It is interesting,
and I mean,
how it works.
Up from that view, you see everything too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they don't miss a beat from that high.
And it's not just the speed. The number one factor in work zone crashes, by far and away, it's not even close, is following too closely. And they can see that too if you're tailgating. But we need people to allow that extra stopping distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. Things can change very quickly in work zones. And if you don't have the ability to react to that, the space to react to that, then that's where we see a lot of these crashes.
So Wednesday is a day people are encouraged to wear orange. Why should people participate in that?
It's just an awareness. If nothing else, it is a matter of you and I walking down the street like, hey, you're wearing orange. What's going on today? And having a conversation. So it's just a way to show that we are aware of work zones. We are going to drive mindfully in those work zones, and hopefully, spread that message. But also, it's a measure of support for our men and women. I hear every year when we do this, It was so cool. I got up and turned on 10 TV, and they're all wearing orange on the news this morning and talking about it being Work Zone Awareness Week. That makes me feel good as a guy who works on the road. And so we'd love to hear that. So certainly look forward to you guys participating this week.
All right. Thank you. And obviously, thank you to all the construction workers that are out there day in, day out, even in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
Working hard and, putting their lives on the line.
And
sometimes.
I got to say, as somebody who just came back from Indiana,
yeah,
we're doing a lot better of a job.
As a native Hoosier, it pains me to hear that a little bit, but I've heard that from some people, unfortunately.
All right. Matt Bruning, ODOT, thank you so much for coming on.